Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy, where today we're going to be talking about spirituality again and how you are not God. And this is an argument I've had with spiritual people a few times over the years, that they will say to you, well, you know, we're all God, we're all part of God, I am God. And I go, well, you're not though. And I've had very long talks about this, and people, they generally misunderstand what I'm saying, so that they think that I'm talking about I think I'm saying, oh, that's blasphemous, or they think that I'm saying that, you know, they think I'm disagreeing it from like a lower level where, you know, everything is just material or something. But actually it's a more nuanced point that I have with this, and it's more about the psychology of it. So I think a good way of explaining what I'm trying to talk about is lucid dreaming. So the people have this misconception that when they are lucid dreaming, that they kind of become aware that they're dreaming, and they go, I am in control of the dream now. And it's if I was the dream weaver, I would feel a little bit outraged by that, or maybe I just wouldn't care because this would just look like a dream character within my realm. But for the lucid dreamer to think that they are creating their dream, that they're in control of their dream, is a little bit rich, because if you've ever been in a lucid dream and you see a tree and you go over to that tree and you look at the leaf and you see the veins and you see the richness of the colour, you didn't do that. You didn't create that. You know what I mean? You're someone living in a greater dream. There's a dream weaver that's creating this space around you that is much more the dream than you are. What you are is you've just become conscious within the dream. There's an experience of metacognition happening within the dream. So that's very different from being in control of the dream. You being the dream weaver. You're not the dream weaver. You're not creating the space. You're not creating the drama in which it happens. When you go up to a dream character and you talk to them, or you have an interaction with them, you're not controlling how they're reacting. You're not controlling how they look. You're not controlling them. And if you were, lucid dreaming would be quite boring, because it would just be you know, scripting something. And even writing isn't fun in that sense. I know Stephen King says he if he ever catches up with the story, then he knows it's not going to be a good story. The story's always going to be running away from him, because the story weaver, the muse, the dream weaver of the story is always moving ahead of him, and he's chasing that. And that's what's so stimulating about that writing process and about lucid dreaming, is that you're interacting with a living entity. You're interacting with a greater mind within your own mind. And that's really the unconscious. And that's a beautiful experience. And to realize that you are not that. You are part of that, yes. So I guess this refers back to my earlier video on the difference between the ego, the self, and the subject. So the ego being the I, so me, mine, all of these things that I am, my conscious awareness and my identities and the roles, all these things that I have kind of tacked on to who I think I am. And that's the ego. And then the self is like the unconscious part of you. So if the ego is the tip of the iceberg, the part of the iceberg above water, then the unconscious is the part of the bit below water, the part of the greater consciousness, the greater subject that is underwater. And then the subject is the totality, is the ego plus the unconscious is the entirety of your being. And it's, when someone says I am God, they're kind of saying I am the ocean, I am the iceberg in the ocean. And it's like, well, you're not though. I mean, you're the tip of an iceberg. You're a part of the drama, but you are not God. You are separate. And that's not a problem. That's not like a terrible thing. In fact, that's quite liberating, because you're as a conscious ego, you are God experiencing itself. You are looking back at God. You are separate. You are a separateness that is able to see a oneness. And that's almost more powerful than dissolving into the oneness, than feeling a part of it, because that experience of dissolution only has meaning when you come back to solidity, when you come back and you go, wow, I was experiencing a oneness with everything. Those words will only come when you're back in an ego state, when you're back in a state of separation. So what I say to people is, you're not God. And that's wonderful, you know, in some sense. You can get to know God. You can form a relationship with God, because you are not God. You are something other. And it's you know, it's that thing of, in the lucid dream, what's amazing is the dream weaver, is the interactions with other dream characters and the creation of this dream world around you. It's just absolutely amazing. And to form a relationship with that, to understand that reality, that's something quite magical for me. I think that's we will inevitably return. The salt will dissolve back into the ocean. We will become rejoined with everything when we die. But for now, to have the opportunity to experience it separately, to be other than it, looking back at it, even if that otherness, that separation is an illusion in some sense. So I think it's important to say that you are not God. You are. It lacks humility to say that you are God, because you are not in control. You would be manifesting everything that you wanted in the world. You would have total control over your environment and your space if you were that God, but you're not. You're just you're an ego who's trying to claim sovereignty and ownership over the unconscious, but the unconscious is other than you. You are separate from it. Form a relationship with it, because you are not it, and yet together ye are one. It's a weird paradoxical thing in that sense, but it's important, I think, and this just to have that little bit of nuance to realize that you are separate. And Jung touches on this in the 4 alchemical stages. So normally the most popular ones that we know are the nigredo, the albedo, and the rubedo. So the blackening, the whitening, and the reddening. The reddening is the forming of the philosopher's stone. But there's a phase there between the whitening and the reddening, and it's called citrinitas. And citrinitas is the experience of that dissolution. I'll probably do a video on explaining this in depth, but citrinitas is the dissolution. It's the experience of oneness, of that unity consciousness. But Jung said that that's not the final stage of alchemy. That dissolution is the penultimate stage, and it's when you come back together. It's when the ego now realizes its relationship to self. You realize you are other. You realize you are a planet or orbiting a sun. That is the correct relationship, and that's the forming of the philosopher's stone. It's not getting lost in citrinitas and unity conscious, an experience of dissolution. It's the coming back together on solid ground, but knowing your place, having a connection, having a relationship to that something higher, and honoring that something higher, having a higher purpose that guides you through your life. That is the philosopher's stone, not being dissolved in it, not being one with God, but being subservient to God, following the higher purpose as an ego, because that's what we're here to do. So, hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Living Philosophy. If you have, please subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments, and please don't forget to give us a like. I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching.